Shefty and D. Wood standing by because there is a bunch of football news from yesterday, and no one better to run through it than our own Adam Schefter. Shefty, I saw some fascinating stuff about the schedule of the way the season will begin this year. Tell everyone what they need to know.
For the first time since 2012, when Barack Obama was speaking at the Democratic National Convention on Thursday night, and the NFL opened the season on Wednesday night with the Giants and Cowboys, the NFL is back to having a Wednesday night opener in Seattle. So it'll be Labor Day on Monday, fantasy football drafts in mass on Tuesday, and Seattle hosting a home opener on Wednesday, that first week of the season before the Niners and Rams meet Thursday in Australia.
This continued push for international games, which is such an incredibly important priority for the NFL, is remarkable. So Seattle playing on a Wednesday, that's one thing. We have Damien Woody up with us early here. Rams and 49ers will play in what could potentially be, D. Wood, an incredibly important NFC West game, and what amounts to Friday morning in Australia. What do you think, as a player, what do you think of that?
Greeny, as a player, I hate it. Players want schedules. They want things to be the same. And for those two organizations to have to travel halfway, literally across the world to go play a football game in all those different time zones, you hate that as a player. I understand the NFL is trying to broaden its horizons in the international games, but, man, playing a game in Australia at that time, it's crazy as a player.
So that's the way the season's going to begin. Seattle at home on a Wednesday night, and then the Rams and 49ers on Thursday night here, Friday morning in Australia. Meanwhile, Shefty, Alabama Pro Day yesterday. Ty Simpson, obviously all eyes were on him. What can you tell us about his day yesterday and where we know he's headed soon?
Yeah, Greeny, listen, the NFL descended on Tuscaloosa yesterday to watch Ty Simpson, although most NFL people were in Columbus, Ohio, watching the Buckeyes. But there were people there. The only GM there yesterday was the Bears general manager, Ryan Poles. And obviously he wasn't there to see Ty Simpson, who showed up well, and now we'll have a private workout this week on Friday with your New York Jets, who currently hold the 2nd and 16th overall picks. We'll see whether the Jets are willing to go for Ty Simpson with the 16th overall pick. A lot of debate in league circles about whether or not that would happen and where Ty Simpson fits in the first round. A lot of people believe he will be a first-round pick. Everybody believes he's the second quarterback in this draft, outside of Dan Orlovsky, of course, who has him going number 1. But most people think Ty Simpson will go number 2 as the quarterbacks, and we'll see where he winds up going. The Jets clearly are taking a long, hard look at Ty Simpson on Friday. The player who did steal the show yesterday in Alabama, from all accounts, was the offensive lineman Caden Proctor. It looks like he really elevated his stock, and people have been talking about him in the top half of the first round. He may have snuck into the top 10. He may have gone as high as number 3 to Arizona, 6 to Cleveland. You're looking at a different conversation now surrounding Caden Proctor, who looks like he very well could go in the top 10 picks after the pro day workout yesterday. Looked very good, very nimble. Obviously, the league is always looking for offensive line help, and he looked very impressive in Tuscaloosa, as you'll get a chance to speak with Mel Kiper and Field Yates about it some point.
Absolutely. You see how enormous Proctor is, and he showed a lot more athleticism than maybe people thought. So he is going to be a higher pick than maybe had been expected. But D. Wood, obviously, you had me at the Jets are bringing him in for a private workout. They have traded for Geno Smith. They have spent a bunch of money in free agency in some interesting ways, and they have a lot of draft capital. Do you believe the New York Jets should take the quarterback Ty Simpson at 16 if he's there?
Yeah, listen, if you're the organization, if you're Aaron Glenn, GM Darren Muji, and Frank Wright, the new offensive coordinator, if you have belief that he should be, your selection at 16, then go take him. Go take him. See, this is a different situation with the Jets as opposed to prior years, where you saw Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson, all those guys thrusted on opening day. That won't be the case with the Jets this year because they traded for Geno Smith. We know Geno Smith is going to be the starter. He's going to take the bulk share of the other reps. Obviously.
Oh, no. We just lost D. Wood. Leave the shot up, though, because I think it's good. Sort of a flattering moment there for D. Wood that we had him frozen. He seems to be back. Yeah, give us a quick final thought, D. Wood. Go.
Listen, Geno Smith is the starter. This is not like last go around with Zach Wilson. and Sam Darnold, so he wouldn't have to play. And I think that's the biggest draw in this whole situation.
Shefty, finish it up with this. 16 is where the Jets pick. Does that seem like about the right range from the people you talk to around the National Football League for where we should expect? I've heard, in the top 10, I've heard all the way late in the first round. Give me a roughly on the range the people you talk to think Ty Simpson will go in.
I think it's hard to project quarterbacks a month out because if we were talking last year at this time, we would have projected Shedeur Sanders as a top 10 pick. And we all know what happened last year. So I'm hesitant to commit on any quarterbacks other than to say right now the consensus is Ty Simpson is number 2. The real intriguing question to me is, as people have talked about, where does he fit in the first round? If the Jets don't take him at 16, do the Browns take him at 24? They weren't in attendance there yesterday with Andrew Berry. Do the Dolphins take him at 30? Is there a team that trades back in to the first round to get him? That may be the most likely scenario, Greeny.
All right, Shefty and D. Wood with us all morning long. We'll never forget the football here, but coming up...
Alabama's Pro Day featuring their former quarterback, Ty Simpson. Now, he's already thrown in front of scouts at the Combine, and he was back at it again today. Then he caught up with our field yates on what makes him a great quarterback.
I think, one, my IQ and the command at the line of scrimmage. You look at my tape, I'm always in the line doing something with our checks or getting us in the right place. So I feel like that, that sets me apart from a lot of other people. 2, I think people don't, give me enough credit for my athletic ability. On the boot, on runs, getting away from the pocket. I feel like that's a huge part of my game and something that, quarterbacks have to do during, playing in the NFL. And then, the third thing is my arm. I feel like I can make any throw on the field, whether it's on time or having to scramble and throw it down the field like I showed out in Pro Day. Just something that, I feel like that I showed out in the Pro Day and, made some throws.
Simpson is slotted at number 2, quarterback on Field's latest big board. Fernando Mendoza obviously is the consensus number 1 overall pick. Field has Simpson going 24th overall to the Cardinals in his latest mock draft. Now, there were no quarterbacks featured at Ohio State's Pro Day, but a cool 17 other members of the 2025 team were on display. 4 of them are projected to go in the top 10 of this year's draft. Here's Louis Riddick.
There were a lot of great performances out here. Arvell Reese stood out as well, and Caleb Downs was strong as well. But Carnell Tate really did look like that smooth, fluid, efficient, number 1 caliber wide receiver that all teams covet. Why did he look that way? Because he combined quickness with body control, with catchability that makes you think that this guy can be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. And he can be a number 1 because he can line up at 3 different positions. He can play the split end or the X. He can play the flanker or the Z. He can play in the slot, and he can run routes from all of those different positions. And then when he catches the ball, he's got big, giant hands, a huge catch radius, and he's got good run after the catch, although you couldn't necessarily see that here today. And I know that the scouts and the coaches that were in attendance were going, we'd love to have him in our wide receiver room if we can get our hands on him.
Adam Schefter to SportsCenter, and we do know that the Seahawks will kick off the season at home. However, what we don't know is what referees will be at the game. That's because they're working on their collective bargaining agreement of their own. So, Shefty, what more can you tell us about that situation?
Well, good morning, Amina. There certainly are far bigger concerns and problems in this country like TSA, but there is a looming issue here with the officials that threatens to disrupt this season. We've seen replacement officials before. We've seen them actually in Seattle with the failed Hail Mary pass before that everybody remembers the last time that there were replacement officials. Who could ever forget that play when the Seahawks threw it long into the end zone, Russell Wilson, and nobody knew exactly who came down with it? Well, the current state of affairs with NFL officials is this. Their CBA expires the end of May. The talks right now between the NFL and the NFL Referees Association are going nowhere. They broke off yesterday. Both sides are unhappy. Both sides are accusing the other of not talking. And there's a lot of time to still figure this out. But the state of talks right now is not encouraging. One source described it as dire. And if it is dire and it continues to be dire, that means that we could be looking at the prospect of replacement officials when the Seahawks open the season that Wednesday night.
Yeah, it sounds like a small thing, but could have big ripple effects if an agreement is not found on that one. Now, another thing we have our eye on for week 1 is the possible return of Patrick Mahomes from that torn ACL. We saw him throwing just yesterday. What more can you tell us about that situation?
Look, he's certainly progressing, and he's on track right now to be where he is. But as one doctor pointed out to me yesterday, you could look yesterday and see how he's throwing and see how he's putting the weight on one leg. He's not fully back, but guess what? He doesn't need to be fully back today. He needs to be fully back in 5.5 months, and he's already made great progress from that torn ACL injury. He certainly is tracking to be ready for the start of the regular season. That's going to be his goal. He's going to do everything he can to be back out there. And I think people believe that ultimately he will be, but there's a long way to go between now and then for the NFL and the officials to figure out their situation and for Patrick Mahomes to try to bounce back from his ACL that he continues to do work on during the offseason.
Look, everyone just excited to see him back out there throwing again. Adam Schefter with the latest. Thanks so much.